Now, hi everybody. Welcome to the show. Dave Emmons and a strange reality. And believe it or not, it is strange reality. Everything's strange nowadays. It seems you just look around the world and what's going on. The things that we never knew that's popping out. The conspiracies we all thought were conspiracies. About 60% of them are coming true right now. That's the way I see it. That's the number that I'm giving it. So people want to argue about that. That's fine. But no, everybody has something going on these days. It seems like everybody's in a hurry and trying to survive. And that's kind of sad in a way that we have to do that. I know there's a lot of countries that are in upheaval and chaos and this type of thing going against their own governments. But we're not going to talk about politics or government today. We're going to talk about something peaceful, something that a lot of people will really be interested in, and I know I am because I'm a contactee and a UFO and ETs. But I have a guest that I met through LinkedIn, and she's from Australia. Her name's Eesha Patel. Eesha Patel is a galactic contact expert. Her work has been featured in prominent media, including Channel 10, Channel 7, Radio Fremantle, and Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. With a vision of interplanetary peace, Eesha is a trailblazer and thought leader in the field of galactic consciousness. I love all this. Her work has received endorsements from prominent researchers in UAP and UFOs, including Professor Abraham Loeb, and he's a very famous person in the UFO phenomena. Eesha is a host of First Contact, a podcast leading the conversation around how humanity can peacefully awaken and connect with our intergalactic family. Eesha leads visionary entrepreneurs into discovering their own galactic soul family through her bespoke and luxury galactic experiences. And I want to hear some of those. That'd be interesting. You can connect with Eesha Patel at www.eeshapatl.com. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. Eesha, welcome to the show. Eesha Patel to the Strange Reality. You have anything to say for an opener? Anything going on with you right now that you'd like to talk about?
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me on today. There's always a lot going on in the world of ufology,
Right.
UAPs, and strange phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest thing on my mind right now is I am about to head to Sedona for a trip,
Oh,
which
wow.
is it feels quite significant,
Mm.
and there's a lot of very interesting energetics there in terms of the vortexes and some of the work that I'll be doing when I'm over there.
Right. You know, Sedona, you mentioned that's a key word to me because I've been there about 5 times. And each time I've had some kind of experience. I've actually met a humanoid ET there and spent some time with her there. And it proved out to be for real. But I also ran into dimensional things, some things I saw that wasn't really there, but I had witnesses say, no, that person wasn't there. I said, and they said, don't worry about it. You see this kind of stuff in Sedona. You're going to the right place, Eesha, Sedona.
Yeah, I've actually been there once before. I'd be happy to share with you some of my experiences there if you want
Sure.
to hear about that.
Sure, I would.
So I was back there in on the 7-7 Gateway 2017 is when I was last in Sedona. So it would have been almost 7 years by the time I land there again next week. And that particular trip for me was guided on so many different levels. At the time that I went, I'd already been in contact with my galactic family for a while, and so they were kind of guiding and encouraging me to go on this trip. Now, one of the most interesting things that happened before I left was 21 days before leaving, I felt like I needed to just change my diet. So I was having no processed foods. And as I was getting towards the final few days, I was just having one meal a day. So I was pretty much fasting, like intermittent fasting on one meal a day, drinking lots of water. I think I was juice fasting at some point leading up to that as well. So they said to me, when I say they, I'm talking about the galactic beings I connect with. They said to me, I need to prepare my body for what's about to occur. They said that, when I get there, I'll be guided into whatever work needs to be done. Just to contextualize this a little. So I connect with the galactic beings, and there's over 20 races that I've connected with in my time. I also work with earth energies and grid lines. So the work that I was doing in Sedona was very much to do with the earth work, the planetary grid side of things. And it was quite funny. I remember having this conversation with the galactic guides at that point, saying, why am I going all the way from Australia to Sedona to do this? Surely there's someone there
Mhm.
that can do this. And they said, no, Eesha, this is your mission. You need to do this. You need to get over there. So I went on these, long haul flights to get all the way from Australia to Sedona. And then I had very little information about what I was going to do when I got there. And I didn't even have any accommodation booked in. They just told me, you'll know when you get there. So I rocked up to the border of Sedona area. I was driving from Phoenix. I stopped at Arcosanti on the way. It's a beautiful community area there. So I stopped in there, had a bit of a look around, and then I went on towards Sedona. And as I was getting to the outskirts of Sedona, I could actually feel the energy vortex, very strong, very palpable. And as I got to the sign that said, welcome to Sedona, at that point I pulled over and I thought, I better just figure out like where I'm actually going to stay, because I didn't have a hotel or anything booked in. And I came across this one place, and this is how clueless I was in my first trip. I didn't know about the vortexes. I didn't know about the significance of Bell Rock. I didn't know what I was walking into. All I knew was I needed to go to Sedona. And I kind of intentionally hadn't researched a lot ahead of time, because I knew that when I got there, I wouldn't want any of that prior knowledge filtering the mission of what I needed to do. So I actually went in there pretty much clueless. And then I remember pulling into a crystal shop that was just sort of towards the entry of, I think it's just past that welcome sign. You get to this crystal store. And I just said to her, there was a lady there, and I said, I've been having these visions in my mind, and I described to her, I'm seeing this red rock and I'm seeing these kinds of trees, and I keep seeing in my vision this kind of image, and I feel like I need to go there. And so she takes me over to this photograph on the wall and she says, "Is that it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. Where's that?" And I kind of laugh at this now. It's what I was pointing at is the Bell Rock vortex, which is very significant. And when I had pulled over just before entering the town, I was looking at a hotel and I made a booking on booking.com, and it was actually for the Bell Rock Hotel, which is the closest hotel to that vortex, without knowing that that's specifically where I was guided to. So
Wow.
that in and of itself was so many synchronicities,
Yeah.
So
It
I
sounds like
arrived there a couple of days. Yeah, yeah,
it sounds like you had similar experience that I did. When I went there one time out of the five, I ran into this crystal shop, like you said, a kind of a jewelry
yeah,
shop, and they told me there
yeah.
was just a UFO sighting the night before at Cathedral Rock. So that's where I
Right.
went and had my experience. So I was kind of thinking, wow, this is eerily strange. You're saying the same
Yeah.
thing that I felt. Go ahead. That's all right. I just wanted to let
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I can share another similar story about that after the Sedona one. I'll tell you about what happened to me in Mount Shasta.
Okay.
That's a very cool story. So when I was in Sedona, I got there sort of a couple of days before the 7/7 gateway, maybe on the 4th or the 5th of July. It was hot, hot, hot. This was one of the hottest weeks in Phoenix. People were literally posting on the internet pictures of them putting an egg on a fry pan, holding it out on the sidewalk and watching it fry. you
Um,
know so it was a hot, hot, hot. And so I remember just going to my hotel, just thankful to be in the shade, and then sort of spent the next day or so looking around, just kind of settling myself into the energies. And then on the morning of the 7/7 gateway, I felt this really strong guidance, like you have to go out for a walk. And I didn't have any maps. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of wandered out of my hotel on foot, and I found this little clearing just near the Bell Rock vortex. And I ended up making this kind of a medicine wheel type thing there, like a sacred geometry, put some crystals there, and kind of set that up, did a little meditation. And yeah, and then I went home because, well, back to the hotel, because you don't want to be out and about after 10 a.m. when it's 50 degrees outside. So
yeah.
I went back, spent the day actually just in the hotel, not doing much. And I was meditating and doing other things as well. So then it gets to about 7 o'clock. And again, I feel like, okay, it's time to go out. Now, when I had energetically tuned into the vortex, this was back in 2017, right? It almost looked like the vortex was unstable. Like if you can imagine a spinning top, but it's wobbly, like it's just not 100% the way that it should be, you
Yeah.
know? So I had that sense of energy with Sedona. and particularly that Bell Rock vortex. And that's when I kind of received the guidance. Okay, your job is to go and fix that, right? So it gets to 7 p.m. and I went out, and it was so interesting at this point. And I still to this day don't understand how this happened, whether it's just my poor sense of directions or something interdimensional going on. It could be either or at this point,
Something
you know.
leading. Yeah.
I could not, for the love of me, find that medicine wheel that I made that morning. And I was like, how can I not find it? I mean, it was right there. Like, I went walking around for about 20 minutes, couldn't find this vortex whatsoever. And by this point, it's about 7 o'clock. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to sit down and do my meditation. So I never found that medicine wheel again. I put it somewhere in a clearing in Sedona, and who knows if it's still there, you know? And so then, I sat down on this rock and I thought, okay, it's 7 p.m. I need to now sit down and just meditate. So I sat on a rock and I was visualizing the vortex, and I could sense so many different galactic ships coming in, and so many different energies supporting this. And so I was just there anchoring the energy. And then the strangest thing happened. So we had been in like the hottest week, right? It was clear blue, cloudless skies for the couple of days I'd been there. And the weather reports the whole week had been like that. Soon as I finished my meditation, I was sitting there for about 20 minutes. Soon as I finished my meditation, I opened my eyes and I looked up, and all of these clouds had come in like a vortex surrounding the top of the Bell Rock.
Mm.
And then I heard, again, the guidance from Star Family. They said, okay, that's it, you're done. Hurry up and leave. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, it's going to rain like there's no tomorrow. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm like rushing back to my hotel at this point, got a few drops of rain on the way over. And as soon as I got inside, boom, like all this rain comes in. There's frigging it was wild. It was wild. And it came in out of nowhere. Like just in the 20 minutes from 7 p.m. to about 7:20, when I was sitting in meditation, visualizing the clearing of that vortex. Well, we know that rain is very cleansing, right?
Right.
So all the clouds came in, all the starships were there, and they were in a vortex. You could physically see that the clouds had formed a vortex above the Bell Rock and completely cleared out that vortex. And the next morning, when I looked at it, I could sense the energy of it. It was like strong, steady, how it's supposed to be. It was incredible experience.
Did you see anything dropping out of the vortex, like a ship or something?
No, not physically. I mean, energetically, because I'm quite connected anyway. I could sense the ships that were there in the area at the time. There were a couple of different ships I was working with back then, and so they had come in, and I could sense that there were many, many others as well. I didn't physically see it, but I had a really good sense of that they were around the area when this was all going on.
Wow, that's a great experience. Did you have any dimensional experiences while there? Did you see anybody that looked out of place, like some old timer like I saw, or anything like that?
There was no one there when I was there, because I was there it was in July. It was off peak. I mean, I was lucky to meet a soul walking down the street,
Yeah.
Most of the shops were closed at that time. And I think that was kind of necessary for work that I needed to do, because if there had been lots of tourists and stuff, I think it would have been difficult to sort of do the energetic anchoring.
Mhm.
So I barely met like 3 people when I was over there.
Wow. Now, what did this voice or telepathic voice, I would guess we would call it, what did it tell you anything while you were there? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was there. I was there for a mission. So I was just getting guidance of go here, do this, pull over here, talk to this person,
Mm.
like with the crystal shop. And then so
Right.
as I was coming into Sedona, I was just listening to the guidance the whole time, and I was just getting those little nudges of the way that a lot of these planetary missions work is you kind of get one piece of the puzzle at a time.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that the more important the mission is, the more they need you to not know about it ahead of time. Because if you understand, like I'm connecting telepathically with the galactic beings as well. And we know there are forces out there that don't want this ascension to happen, that don't want these energies to come through, because there are certain groups out there that are feeding off the negative, lower vibrational human emotional energies, right?
Yeah.
So when I do significant high vibrational missions that are operating at a planetary level, my experience 90% of the time is I get told only when I'm there on a need to know basis what needs to get done at the time it needs to get done. So it's very much just about being tuned into the present moment. And the other reason for this as well is the mission could change one day to the next.
Mhm.
You know, there could be little nuances. So if they told me the mission a month ahead of time, by the time I get there might be so many changes to it. There's no point, you know? So
Yeah.
they want to make sure that there's a level of presence in the mission and that it's being done in real time with the current timeline in the moment that it needs to happen.
Isha, yeah, I know that you're into this pretty deep and you study it and you've actually experienced a lot of this. What is the reason why they make us do certain things? I've been told also telepathically to go somewhere, and then when I did, I would see something, and I'd visualize something or something would happen. Why is it that they make us jump through these hoops, Isha, to in order to is it our path, our journey that they're wanting us to make or learn something from it, Isha?
Yeah, one thing I really want to reframe here is they don't make me do anything. They encourage and invite and guide, and I always have free will. I always have the ability to say no. I always can, and I can negotiate, I can communicate, I can change things if I want to. There have been missions where they've said things to me and gone, can you please do this? And I've gone, guys, I don't think you understand from an earth perspective. I cannot do this today. It is not going to happen. It's very rare that I would do that.
Yeah.
And even then, sometimes they will nudge me and say, look, Isha, there's a timeliness to this. Can you please, you know, do this? And I've always been looked after on all fronts. You know, I've been gifted accommodation. I've, you know, if there's any money required, like for flights and things like that, all of that shows up for trips. So there's a harmonious working relationship that I have with these beings, and I want to be really clear that they're not making me do anything. I'm doing everything of my own free will, of my own choosing, in service to the planet. So really important to clarify that.
Yeah,
Now,
I
to
misused
answer
I
your question,
misused that word made. They make you do things. They never make me do anything. They suggest me do
right?
this, that I'm not
Yes,
or, told, yeah, you're right.
and you can
I have to
choose,
withdraw. I
right?
have to retract that. Yes.
Yes, yes. And you get to choose whether or not you say yes or say no.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, my experience has always been it's been very loving. It's rare, very rare for me to say no to something.
Yeah.
But they're very understanding of the human experience as well as the soul incarnation experience that we have. So you know, with the missions that I have accepted, the reason why I've been guided in the way that I have, one is always the highest service to the planet. And two is that you do receive bounty when you do this stuff. I mean, your soul grows and evolves that every time I say yes to one of these missions, I'm the one who receives so many miracles and magic and synchronicities. And so it's a bit of a twofold. I mean, if we had to put it into sort of translate in terms that people can understand, it's like if you've ever read, you know, the 7 habits of highly successful people, right?
Mhm.
It's a win-win situation. They create win-win situations where if you choose to go on the mission, it's a win for the planet and it's a win for you personally.
Right.
Because that is the true nature of how divine will operates. Divine will doesn't say you need to compromise your personal self or your personal needs in order for the needs of the whole to be fulfilled. True divine will is an alignment between the collective consciousness and the individual, very much the same way that if you go out into the ocean, you don't know where the drop starts and where the ocean begins.
Mhm. Now, manifestation, I guess, is one of the keywords you're talking about, that you get what you want when you go through all these little trips and things that they suggest to you, and they don't make you, they suggest. And me the same way, but there's all kinds of little tricks that they're trying to talk about on the internet about manifestation. Could you tell us, since you go and you do these things that you're asked to do, could you tell us the manifestation that you get? You said you get everything you usually want, Isha. Is that a good way for getting the manifestation instead of sitting in a room and thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I like to bring in here is the understanding of the frequency of providence. A lot of people out there talk about manifestation. I've been in that coaching space myself. I'm actually really good at helping people manifest, people who are in my groups, my communities. They're manifesting massive, like, monetary sum. I just had one client yesterday. She posted a picture in our group. She manifested some $40,000, and this is the second time this has happened to her in the last 12 months that we've been working together. So I get manifestation very, very deeply, and also I would like to shift the frame into this frame of providence, because when I am doing these galactic missions, whatever is required is provided to me, and I barely have to think about it. And that's the beauty of being in true divine service. If I need to fly around the world to go, do some planetary mission, and I want to stay in a relatively decent hotel, and I want to have some nice, clothing with me, those things, they're all provided for. Like, there's a really big mentality out there in the spiritual community, which I absolutely disagree with, and it's this real poverty kind of mindset. Like, everything has to be done for free, everything has to be done by donation, I can only receive money in this way or this way. Like, I was chatting with someone recently, and they were telling me that their way of receiving abundance or providence is they get guided to go to a casino, and they get guided which tables to sit down, and end up winning like 4 or 5 jackpots in a row. And that's their pathway, right? And I know plenty of people out there in the spiritual community who would say, but that's not high vibrational. You shouldn't be gambling, and you shouldn't be doing this. And it's just like, why do we limit the way that we receive providence? Because if that money is going towards the higher service, which in this person's case, they're creating a podcast, they're writing books, they're doing amazing things with that money, they're doing like sort of planetary mission sort of stuff, so you have to understand, like, there's so many different ways that we can receive providence, as long as we are open to it and we don't limit ourselves in the pathway that it comes through.
Right.
Another example that I've had in my life, like back in the day when I did some of my earlier travels and stuff, some of my providence was sometimes my parents would come with me and pay for the trip. There were two instances where we went on family holidays, and they were family holidays, but also I was doing planetary work while I was there. One of them was my trip to Egypt a few years ago, and the other one was my trip to Uluru in 2015. And both of those trips were family holidays. Suddenly my mum would come along and say, hey, I want to come here, and I want to take the family with us. And I'll go, yeah, cool. And I'm already getting the guidance that I need to somehow go there. Back then I didn't have a successful business, so the providence came through the form of my parents. And some people would feel shame around that, like, oh, no, I can't let my mom pay for this for me. I'm like, just receive it. Like, if you know that you are putting that money to good use, and you are doing things that are beneficial for the planet, then don't feel guilty about receiving money. Don't feel guilty about having a business. Don't feel guilty charging for your spiritual services.
Right.
Take the money, be grateful for it, and then do good with it.
Right.
So when it comes to manifestation and providence, when I'm doing these planetary missions, every time I'm about to go on a mission, I'm guaranteed to get an influx of clients before I leave. And I've actually just experienced it on this one. In the last week, I've signed up a handful of clients to my course,
Right.
just people that have come in like out of the blue, wasn't even planned, just people that I meet on the street or
Mhm.
whatever, just suddenly are working with me.
Now,
And I see this every single time I have a significant mission that requires travel, that requires money, that requires, like, I'm taking a month off to do this, all of those things are just completely handled.
some of the advice that you give about manifestation, you give this to your clients too. Is this the way you teach your clients to gain all of this knowledge that you have, and actually be, I guess, having contact with the Galactic Federation or whatever, the ETs? Have you met any of these ETs personally, Eesha?
Oh yeah, many of them. I connect with over 20 different races. I connect with individuals from different races. My journey started off in 2015 when I first started channeling the Arcturians. Since then, it's opened up so many different things. So I now connect with Arcturians. I connect with Pleiadians. I've connected with the Pleiadian Elder Mira, or Elmira as she goes by. I've connected with the members of the Intergalactic Federation, many councils of light, the Pleiadian Council of Light, the Sirians, Andromedans from the galaxy, and Andromedans from the constellation as well. So many. I could give you a list,
do,
yeah, so many
do,
different beings.
do they show up in holographic form in front of you, or Do you ever see them physically, or is it telepathically that you get these messages, Isha?
Most of the time it is telepathic, and I guess you got to understand it takes a lot of energy for them to come through in physical. It's actually easier if we just step up to their frequency,
Yeah.
but there are moments when they will come through. I had this one, and it's very sparingly, and there's usually a very good reason for why they would put that much energy into coming through into 3D form. One that comes through very commonly for me, I've got a spot in my dining room here in my house. I call it the Mother Mary corner because Mother Mary has appeared so many times there, like so many times. So that's an energy that I connect very strongly with. I'm not baptized or anything like that. I did go to a Catholic school for a while when I was younger, but it's just an energy I have really strong connection with. The other one was one time Commander Ashtar came through on one of my missions when I was in Melbourne, because the energy there was just so intense. And what actually happened in that particular mission was a group of beings tried to actually psychically attack me at that time. And so boom, starship holographically lands in my bedroom. Ashtar walks out. I'm freaking out. Like, it was so like intense, because I mean, telepathically I connect with them all the time, but when you actually when you see them, when I say see, it's still not as clear as like I'm seeing you in the screen. When I say see, I'm still using like my holographic or third eye vision
Right.
to see it, but it was so tangible. He literally just walked out of a starship portal into my bedroom in the middle of the night, and my heart was just like racing. And he actually said, he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," but he's like, "We needed to anchor this energy now because this other group was trying to get you off track for the mission." And this was the day before, the night before, I was about to run a 333 activation event in Melbourne for a small group of people. And there was a big backstory of like the last minute, the venue had to change and everything just kind of went up in haywire. And yeah, a lot of distortion was coming in for that particular mission. So they came in at a very, very strong level, in a very strong way, to energetically support. And they just cleared out the energy of the building and really created that space so that I could then do what I needed to do the next day without any interruptions or distortions or energetic attacks on me.
Right. You have to be an empath and a receiver. You're no doubt a receiver from all this other stuff. Now, a lot of people have heard of Commander Ashtar. I know I have. Could you tell us who he is, Isha, and what does he look like?
I have to say before I answer the question, there's a lot of mixed information out there when it comes to Commander
Mhm.
Ashtar,
I know.
because some of the information that I've seen out there on the internet is not the true Commander Ashtar. And I just want to give a really brief story before I answer your question, which is relevant. So if you don't have the ability to discern energy, not just visually but from a frequency perspective, there is a chance that things can get distorted. And
Oh,
I had this experience very early on in my journey. One time I thought I was connecting with the energy of Archangel Michael, and this was through meditation. So I thought I was connecting with the energy of Archangel Michael. He looked like Archangel Michael, who's holding the sword. Everything about him looked like Archangel Michael, but something felt off. You know how you just sometimes sense like, okay, something is not
yeah.
right here. Something does not feel like 100%. And I connected with Archangel Michael many, many times before. On this particular instance, there's this sort of universal rule. Like, well, two things. One is the law of vibration. One is if you send out love from your heart to the being, if they are of that love frequency with benevolent intentions, they will always come towards me. And every being I've connected with in the inner realms has done this with me. If they are of the matching love vibration, they come towards me with love, place their hand on my heart, or they connect with me third eye to third eye, and I'm able to feel their energy. But if they are not of a loving vibration, that's usually the point where when I send love, I just send all this love from my heart to them. They will either stay where they are or they'll disappear. And
Okay.
so this particular being who claimed to be Archangel Michael, I sent love from my heart. Nothing. He just stood there. Already, I'm like, red flag is going off here. So I said 3 times, "Who are you?" And he said, "Archangel Michael." "Who are you?" "Archangel Michael." But third time, I don't know why it works in threes. There's some universal law about threes. The third time I said, "Who are you?" Next thing, shapeshifted reptilian, he runs off.
Really?
So So you have to understand that not everybody out there is connecting with the true Commander Ashtar, and there are beings impersonating him. And I feel it's really important to note that.
Yeah.
Now, having connected with Ashtar very deeply, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So he was a reptilian that was is shape shifting and trying to fool you,
Yeah.
just like the Garden of Eden, I guess. Now,
Oh yeah. Oh,
your
yeah.
teachings of your clients, and you have a here initiating first contact and thing. I guess that's what you teach your clients. But do you
Yeah.
associate any? I noticed you mentioned Catholic a while ago. Do you associate any of this with spirituality, religion, or any the occult stuff? Anything that you? I think yours is coming through like telepathically and
Yeah.
through the vibrations. And would you call that spiritual, Ishi?
Yes and no. I mean, spirituality is just science we don't have an answer for yet, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to put it in the spiritual bucket, put it in the spiritual bucket because it's unseen and people don't fully understand it. But to me, it's really quite scientific. I mean, it's the field of consciousness.
Mhm.
So yes, it does require that vibration, that heart vibration. But again, a lot of people think that's all wishy-washy, woo-woo, spiritual hippie stuff. But I mean, if you now look at the Heart Math Institute, there are studies being done on the coherence field of hearts and how humans interact with each other. So whether it's scientific or spiritual really comes down to how knowledgeable you are in the sciences. So to me, it's kind of like it's just the way the universe works.
Yeah.
It's the field of consciousness studies.
Yeah, not to really knock religion, but I've mentioned this before. I've been to churches, a lot of them, just about all of them, through my lifetime. It's been a long while, but I've seen people go up and pray in front for more wealth, a job, or something like that. And 5 years later, I go there and I see the same people up there praying for a job and money. So apparently, they haven't been manifesting the proper direction or the proper frequency like you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of religious people don't get, they don't. I guess they don't get it to where you're at, Eshi.
I think one of the biggest things is that there's sometimes in that space a deference to the higher power, and that's actually quite disempowering because if we go back to this concept of divine will, if you're in your service, everything is provided to you. If you're just on the altar begging for this and begging for that, but then you go back home and you don't change anything in your life,
Mhm.
well, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
There's a real practical element, and the difference between myself and the people that might not be seeing results is that I go home after my prayers and my meditations, and I actually do the thing that I'm guided to do. And
Right.
sometimes the things don't make sense. Like I do get guided to take a plane halfway across the world at a moment's notice, and then I receive the providence because I've actually followed that. But say, for example, somebody is looking for more wealth, and then they keep feeling like, oh, I should get a new job. I should get a new job. I should get a new job. But if they never sit down, write the CV and apply for the new job, then it's like God is trying to hand them abundance on a silver platter, but they're not taking it.
Right.
So I definitely see that there's a personal element of action that's required as well, and I talk about this in my courses a lot as well. It's about how to take aligned action to actually get results, because one element is the meditation and the prayer and asking the higher power to help you, but the second thing is you got to do your bit too.
Right.
Like you're not going to lose weight just praying and praying and praying. You're going to lose weight by meditating and by having a healthy diet and maybe going to the gym and going for a run and doing all those other things, because prayer is one piece of the puzzle. But we are still here in a human experience, in a human body, and if you receive intuitive guidances and don't act on them, then you're never going to receive the thing you're trying to manifest.
You got to walk the talk, I guess. You said
Exactly.
here initiating contact, and Aisha, you identify pathways. You were just talking about that with non-human intelligence. Uh,
Can
why?
I just
Yeah, go ahead.
go
Go
back to the
ahead.
Ashtar? I just want to
Yeah.
finish the
Okay.
Ashtar
Yeah.
thread for
All
a
right.
second. I feel like I didn't fully answer your question. So I told you what was not Ashtar, but I haven't actually said what is Ashtar.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's really important to know the difference, just because there's a lot out there. So the Ashtar that I have connected with is actually a really beautiful, loving being, and their role is to support us and to be a liaison between the Intergalactic Federation and the people of Earth. They're actually in many ways leading the fleets that are doing and supporting a lot of the planetary frequencies, the shifting of energies. He is one that's he comes through to a lot of people as well. Like a lot of people channel Ashtar because he's one of the more front-facing beings that you can connect with. And there are lots and lots and lots of different beings. Now, I have a very personal connection with Ashtar in the sense that so my higher soul aspect that I've connected with, and we are multidimensional beings, so we all have multiple soul aspects that can be
Right.
connected with. One of my higher soul aspects, her name is Lily. Her last name is actually Shayran. So Ashtar Shayran and Lily Shayran, which is my soul aspect, are actually related. If you say related in a very loose sense, because it doesn't work the same way in that realm as it does here, but for all intents and purposes, it's a soul family and soul frequency. So that's another reason why I'm able to do the work that I'm able to do at the level that I do it, because I'm privy to what's actually happening at the front lines with the command, with the Federation, because my soul aspect is there on the starships and I'm able to receive a lot of information through that.
Yeah. Reason why I didn't bring up Ashtar again, because you said there was so many, people with different information about Ashtar and what Ashtar is, what he looks like. So I
Yeah,
didn't want to
yeah,
press you. So I thought maybe
yeah,
Ashtar would he changes. That's what I was getting. That's my thought after the end of that conversation. So I'm not a type of host that pushes people to, say, okay,
yeah,
I went for
yeah.
enough. I don't want, so you said there's many different, I guess identifications that people give Ashtar. Now, life after disclosure, moving on here, time goes by so fast. It just really, especially it's interesting. You're a very interesting guest, Eesha, and I really. Now, can you explain life after disclosure? Like I said, I'm working with a group that's working on that project, and of course, I'm gonna send them this video of you and see if you could be of any help to them. Eesha, could you tell us what life after disclosure really means?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, there's the sort of energetic, telepathic, all the experiences that I'm having that a lot of other people are experiencing as well. Then there's a really practical component. I mean, it is a matter of time before there is an open disclosure. And one big, big key point I want to make, and this is really the premise behind the entire First Contact podcast and why we started this, is to help people realize that you do not need to wait for an official government disclosure. If you ask me, I've had disclosure for almost 10 years now. So it really is an individual choice for people to receive and to open their hearts to make this connection with our galactic family, because that's what they are. They are here. They're like it's like saying, in Australia, well, I'm never going to talk to Japanese people because they're across the ocean. Well, that's ridiculous. Like, we have the technology to phone them and connect with them, and we can fly on a plane. Like, why would I never go to Japan, or why would I never go to Africa? So to me, it's like that. Like, they might be across the space of the dimensions and even the planets, but they're still our family. They're still one like us. They just look a little different. They might be a little bit different in appearance for some of them. Some of them are more humanoid, some of them have more animal-like features, but they're still forms of consciousness, right?
Right.
So the first thing is we can initiate contact. And the next thing is, well, what happens when enough people initiate contact that it just becomes the norm? And that's where the discussion gets very interesting, because that's the level at which the connection starts to influence our society, our medical technologies, military, legal systems, societal structures, education, agriculture. All of our industries get influenced the same way that when we first started exploring other countries and people went on boats and they started learning and trading and exchanging knowledge, it helped us evolve. And
Mm.
so this is another level of evolution, in that we can learn, we can exchange, we can connect at a deeper level with these beings, and it is going to have an impact on every area of our life.
Now, let me throw this big suitcase of questions at you one time. You talk about that you receive, through meditation, you receive these telepathic messages, and you're told what to do on your journey. What is going on? I know I've been abducted. why are we being abducted, some of us, and some of us have a real peaceful way of communicating, and you said they take a lot of energy to get here to us, so they'd rather us kind of meet them halfway or whatever. But what about the actual physical ETs that are coming through portals and landing here, and also a couple of the bad ETs that are underground here that are actually causing a lot of the chaos that's going on? Now I know that's a big package, Esha, so I don't know if you want to
I'm happy to answer this question,
Okay,
and
go
I
ahead.
think it's important to address this side of it as well. My experience has been very peaceful and loving for the most part. I've had a couple of odd entities that, you
Mhm.
know, I'd be happy to not see for a while, but again, you know, as my role in galactic ambassadorship, I do need to be quite open-minded and aware to what's happening across the many races. And one of the biggest things to understand here is that just because they're in another dimension doesn't necessarily mean that they are highly evolved and have achieved a level of peace and unity. Even here on planet Earth, some humans, most humans, are actually really lovely human beings, and some humans are starting wars and killing people and doing crime and all that sort of stuff. Exactly the same when it comes to ETs. There are some ETs that think that it's okay to go and experiment on humans and to, you know, and to breed with them without consent. And I've heard some really weird stuff, you know, from people. And I, to anyone who's had that experience, I am deeply sorry you've had that experience, because
Me.
the majority of people, the majority of ETs out there are actually beautiful. And if you've had a negative experience, it's, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anyone who has had that, because that does not represent the entire cohort of all beings out there. Very much the same as, like, if you know, one person goes to Mexico and gets mugged, it's like, yeah, I can understand that you might never want to go to Mexico again, but then a lot of people go to Mexico, have a great holiday and have a great time. So it's unfortunate that this happens, and I don't agree with it. I think those ETs need to learn and evolve the same way that humans on our planet need to learn and evolve. But that's the reason why it happens. It's just that, you know, a lot of these races aren't perfect like us.
Yeah, I've had a lot of experiences, abduction, but they haven't hurt me, and I haven't been.
Mhm.
I like yes, I was scared, but the problem with it is it's not a problem. Afterwards, it felt like a spiritual event that happened to me when I ran into these entities, and or they ran into me or whatever. But I know what you're talking about. There are a lot of people who have scary, nightmarish contact with the other side, with ETs, and how do we get rid of negative energy, Isha?
Yeah. So I've been having psychic contact since I was a teenager. Someone out there must have known that I'm here to do this mission before I did, and didn't want me doing it. So I recall when I was a teenager having the worst of the worst nightmares. And you could say, okay, it was nightmares, it was night terrors, whatever, but I'm talking like demonic, like entities coming at me in my sleep, to the point where I was terrified, you know, and like paralyzed. Like I felt like I couldn't move. It was so bad. Now, look, whatever belief system you have, you can apply that to helping yourself get out of these situations. I happen to be in a Catholic school, so the being that I connected with was Jesus Christ. And so if I ever was in a situation where in a dream state or whatever state, I always knew that I could call upon Christ. And I applied that later on down the track when I was meditating and connecting and sort of exploring these realms as well. I would often take various spiritual guides with me to help and support and to help me learn as well. Because when you're first learning and first starting out, you just don't know what's what. It's so important to have a guide and a mentor with this work, you know, because you don't know what you're getting yourself into sometimes. So yeah, I had beings that would come with me on almost every journey for quite a number of years. And whether it be, you know, Christ, sometimes it was Saint Germain, sometimes it would be Lord Ganesh, because I come from a Hindu background as well, so I don't discriminate. You know, I connect and I see all of these beings. I've had connection with Mother Mary. I have had Lord Krishna show up at certain times. I've had Lakshmi show up at certain times. Actually, whenever Lakshmi shows up in my meditations, I get a lot of money. So that's something I've noticed. Like the last one very tangible experience of that was, it was before one of my trips. I think this was before my UK trip. I was doing 21 days of planetary missions across the UK, and I at the time didn't have the money to go. And then Lakshmi came to me And then like 10 grand dropped into my account the next day, and that was like my whole trip covered, you know. So stuff like that has happened to me before. I was like, this is just wild. So anyway, going back to your question, how to you know, protect yourself from these energies, there's a couple of different things I suggest. One is call upon the beings that you believe in, whether it's Christ, Buddha, Krishna, whatever holy power you believe in, your higher self. You know, these are all things you can connect with to help you lift your vibration. The other thing you can do are a series of energetic practices. Now, I have one on that I can give out to people. If anyone wants to, they can just contact me on Facebook or email or reach out through my website, eeshapatel.com. And it's called the 4 Foundation Practices. So these practices I get my clients to do on a daily basis. There's 4 components to it. And when you put these 4 components together, what they do is they first cleanse your energy field. They help you maintain a high vibrational energy field. Very good for empaths, by the way. I've had people say to me they've done these practices before going into a concert or something, you know, walking into a busy shopping center, and they find that it's very, very calming on them. Then I help them to center their energies. And there's one particular practice in there called the 3 whites, where you go through and just really work on your 3 centers. So through your sacral, your heart, and your third eye, you open everything up. So it's spiritually awakening as well. It's realigning all your chakras. And then you finish off with a soul alignment practice, where you can just be in that divine source alignment between source and earth, where you become that conduit of high frequency. And so these 4 practices together, I've put them into an audio recording. Just find me on any platform, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I can send them over to you. And that's what I would recommend as a daily practice to anyone who wants to deepen in this work, or for anyone who's having experiences already and wants to be in a higher vibrational energy field, so that they can just have a better experience of what's happening.
Now, I'm such a curious person because things have happened to me since I was 13 myself, and I've seen 6 up close UFOs, met 3 ETs, you know, face to face basically, and had lucid dreams. Like I said, I've never had any really bad experiences. Scary, yeah, everything's scary when it's new, when something approaches you. But I also saw, I don't know if it was Mother Mary was in a about 5'7" in a white you know, cloak, and her face had a veil on it, standing at the foot of my bed. And that happened back in the 70s, and it happened back in the 90s, 2 different times. And I never could figure that out. And maybe you might know who that is. Is that an angel, or is that Mother Mary, Isha? They
Did you
call
say
her,
she was all in white?
yeah, the woman in white, they call her. And there's been people who've seen her, and I've seen her twice. And about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning is when you'll see her, and she'll walk in and she'll be at the foot of your bed, and then she'll slowly walk away into another room, and you'll chase her, and then she's gone. It's like just shows
You
up.
know, I typically, and different people have different associations with this. So when Mother Mary comes through to me, and I meet with her many times, even as we're talking about it, I can feel her presence around me right now. She comes to me more in a pink sort of vibration, and that's just how she appears to me. Now, typically when I do connect with Mother Mary, when she's very present as she is right now, I get a sense of roses. That's the energy she comes through to me in. Now, the pure white feminine goddess energy, I typically associate actually with Isis, because she comes through in more of that white frequency, or golden white frequency. And sometimes I'll see her with a bit of a scepter, kind of standing there, and she's got this sometimes a crown, or some sort of headpiece that she's usually wearing.
Yeah, she was an
So
Egyptian.
does that resonate for you at all?
Yeah, it does, but she didn't have a scepter or anything. But that's that Egyptian queen, Isis. I wrote my 3rd book, Angels
Yes.
and Supernatural Entities, about. There's a story in there about Isis and you know, her brother-in-law and her husband and everything. And but I want to get in deep. But that I'm not quite sure what that was. But you're saying the colors means, and you said something about roses. Do you smell roses when you run into Mother Mary?
Sometimes, yeah. I had a really powerful experience when I was in um what's that lake? It's in Banff in Canada, Banff National Park. There's a lake there. I think it might be called Lake Banff or something like that. And when I was there, I remember it almost felt like a bit of a baptism, you know? Like I remember Mother Mary coming through really strongly to me, and then I could smell the roses, like the scent of roses, and then she told me just to take the water from the lake and to kind of like put it over myself, you know? And that's happened to me on a couple of different occasions. So once it happened at that lake in Canada. The other time was a place here in Perth. I think it was the Serpentine River or maybe somewhere in Jarradale. And very similar experience. That time I was swimming and suddenly I was in the water and Mother Mary comes through. I can smell the roses and she told me just dunk your head in and feel the energy of that. So both times it kind of likened it to sort of like a baptism of sorts, you know, because the first time she got me to dunk my head in the water fully, like fully immerse myself. And the second time I wasn't swimming, but she just said to take the water and just sprinkle it over my head and kind of wash it through my aura. So that's a couple of very tangible experiences I've had with Mother Mary.
Isha, you have these journeys that you take, and you're asked or requested to do. What do you think your mission really is, Isha? I think a lot of us wonder why are they coming to us, and why me, and why you, and what is our mission? What do they want us to do, Isha?
I actually remember the moment where I chose to come to Earth and be here because so what happened was, and if you're familiar with any of Dolores Cannon's work, she talks about this quite extensively. So one of the experiences that I had was I remember, and this wasn't through regression, this was just through meditation, but I really resonated with Dolores Cannon's work because it was very similar to some of the things that I picked up on. And I remember being in the universe of Mu where everything is pink and the air is misty, like it's very water-like. And I was in the non-physical form. It was like I was this giant bubble of energy just floating around, kind of like an ocean air like atmosphere. And suddenly there was this call that went out, this sort of vibration that went out that said, Earth needs your help. I still get goosebumps every time I tell this. Earth needs you. And the humans have atomic power. And all of this, it wasn't through words. It was just like this signal of knowing, like this clairsentience of like, oh my God, the humans have invented atomic power. Oh my God, this stuff is happening. This is going on, you know? And time, by the way, is non-linear. I know that the atomic thing happened back in like the 30s and 40s, you know, and here I am, I'm born in the 90s. But that was the point where I just stepped up and said, I mean, it wasn't even without, it was like without thinking, like it was just, if Gaia needs me, I'm going, I'm there, I'm first in, I'm like, get me in there, I'm here to help, you know, because I have such a strong soul connection with Gaia, the actual soul of our planet Gaia. And so if she needs this support and she wants to now lift the vibration into 5D, I'm there, man. I'm there doing whatever it is that I need to do. Whatever you need me to do, I'm there, boots on the ground. I'm doing it, you know? So that's why I came in this lifetime. So this lifetime for me, this incarnation, it's very much about the service. It's very much about the mission. I always say, you know, for me, the mission comes first. That's all I'm here to do. And I did go through the first sort of 25 years of my life kind of still under the veil, because you know when you come to earth you go under the veil and you don't have this awareness of you know the full remembering of who we are. But then when I got to 25, suddenly everything in my life changed and I had a very spontaneous awakening. Next thing it was like, I'm going to Mount Shasta. I never got around to that story, maybe another time. I
Yeah,
went to Mount Shasta.
you could, if you could.
I
I'm interested in that story, and you're talking about the Galactic Awakening. That's one of the other points. But could you tell us the Mount Shasta thing real quick, and then I got a
Oh yeah, if
question.
you've got time,
Go
absolutely.
ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'll just finish up this thread. So really it was from the desire of service for the planet, and then I came here with a very specific mission, which was to come here, awaken from the inside. And soon as I awakened, within 5 weeks of me having my awakening, I was facilitating for other people. All that remembering just came through. And that was it. Like I'd had no meditation experience. I'd never done any formal training. I'd never done any like, Reiki courses, nothing. I went straight off the bat from zero to I'm now facilitating Galactic Arcturian DNA activation ceremonies for clients. And that was the beginning of my journey.
Mhm.
So I will tell you the Mount Shasta story. So this goes back to 2015. I had just had this whole spiritual awakening happen. And one of the first things that happened for me was these Arcturians came through and they gave me a series of sacred geometry codes. And they said, Eesha, you need to share this with people. So I did. And we had 7 people in the room who came to my very first event, as I said, with no facilitation experience whatsoever. I ran this event and it was quite funny. I was thinking like, if nothing happens, I'll just like give them a refund and go home, like it was just, I had no idea what I was doing. But I went there and I did this meditation and I shared some of these codes with the people who came to the event, who thankfully trusted in me enough to rock up and come here for the thing. So they came to the event, and then 3 people in the room on that first event of mine saw this Arcturian blue starship come into the room in the ether and was present. And they had amazing healings, like all this stuff just happened, right?
Mhm.
So it was quite powerful in firstly for me to realize that whatever this thing that I'm channeling is actually legitimate, because now it's not just me getting random information that I could be making up. It's actually having an impact on other people and they're having profound experiences. So shortly after that, and this all happened within the span of a few weeks. So it was the end of July that all of this kind of started happening. It was the 17th of August that I ran my first event. And then it was maybe a little bit before that I felt guided to go to Mount Shasta. Now, the guidance was so clear. They said to me, be on the mountain September 11, 2015. So I booked my flights. And it's quite interesting. There was a friend who was meant to be coming with me, and we booked our flights at the same day. And then for some reason, she couldn't end up joining me. But at that point, because I'd already booked my flights, I was like, well, I'm going. So I ended up going to the States by myself. My mum was freaking out because I'm in my 20s, and she's like, what are you doing? Suddenly going off to America, She contacted all my aunties and uncles in America and said, can you just look after my daughter while she's over there? So yeah, so I went to California. I spent some time with my aunt there, and then I went up to Mount Shasta. And it was so interesting what happened there. I felt guided to go up the mountain on September 11th. And then, that whole morning, I just kind of felt like, okay, just wait, not now. I just dilly-dallied around for the morning. I had a little hire car. I was staying in my Airbnb. I sort of, moseyed my way up the mountain. There's a beautiful little cafe there. I can't remember the name of it, but it has the most amazing food,
Yeah.
and probably the only one there, actually. So I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. So there's a lovely cafe. I'm having lunch. And then about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I get this guidance, go now. Like suddenly it's like, go now. And so, okay, I pack everything up, get my car, up the mountain I go. And there's a place there called Sandflat, which I didn't know about. And there's another spot there where it's kind of like people call it's like the home of Saint Germain. There's like the rivers there. People go there to fill up their water bottles, and so when I got to that spot, there was a gentleman there who I never met before. He was just down, he was sort of kneeling down by the river. And I was something in me just said, go up and talk to this guy. I didn't know who the guy was. So I went up to this guy, had a chat with him, literally within like a minute. Turns out his name is Marlo. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing the story. His name was Marlo, and he was washing crystals in the river. And as I got chatting, I said, so what do you do? What brings you here? And he said, well, I'm a quantum hypnosis practitioner of Dolores Cannon's work, right? Now, a couple of years before that day, there was a lady who had come from America. I think she used to live in Washington, D.C. at the time. She'd come from there to Perth, and she was a facilitator of the quantum hypnosis modality. And I met with her when she was in Perth. Now, here I was, a couple of years down the track, meeting this gentleman. Now, I don't really know anyone in America except for that one auntie of mine, right? And this one lady who I met in Perth. That's the only people I know in the entire country of America. So we're in California. This lady, Honey Borden, she's from either Washington. I think she was in Washington at the time. And this guy, Marlo, is from Miami. So I'm here in Mount Shasta, all the way from Australia. I go up the mountain, talk to this one person, and he knows the only other person that I happen to know in the United States who's not my auntie, right? Crazy, absolutely crazy. Like that level of synchronicity was through the roof. It gets better. So I said, Marlo, what are you doing here? What a cool synchronicity. This is amazing. So we exchanged, contact details and that. And he said that he was there for a conference, and there was a gentleman by the name of Rodrigo Gonzalez. If you're in ufology, you probably know the guy. I had never heard of him. And he was running an event there, a contact event on Sand Flat in the mountain the day after on the 12th. I never would have heard about this, never would have known about this, and also never would have gone to it. Here's why. Because I chatted with Marlo, and he told me that this event is happening on Sand Flat, starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I never heard from him after that. Also had really bad reception. So even if he had tried to message me, I never would have got it. But I remembered the name Ricardo Gonzalez, and I just Googled when I got to my Airbnb the event details. So I rocked up there the next morning, not knowing what it was or what I got myself into. Turns out the whole event was in Spanish. I don't speak a word of Spanish. So if I had come across this event in any other way, if I had seen a flyer, if I had seen it on the internet, I never would have gone, because why would I go to a Spanish event when I don't speak Spanish? But
Right.
because I connected with this guy, Marlo, he didn't mention anything about the event being in Spanish. I just thought, it's going to be in English. I rocked all the way up to the mountain on Sand Flat. And then I got there and I was like, well, I'm here now. Might as well stick around.
Yeah.
So I actually stayed there for the whole event, and I was so unprepared. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But as it happens, I made friends with some lovely humans there. And when it got late in the night and they were starting to, people were starting to have these experiences. Some people were seeing orbs and connecting with these energies, and there's a lot going on there. Now, this was very early on in my days. At that particular event, I personally didn't see any beings physically. I didn't physically see any orbs or anything like that, but I could sense that these energies were there. And a very interesting thing happened a couple of years down the track was my memory of the event changed, because as I grew in my spiritual awareness, when I look back on the event, I realized that there were energies present there that I was not seeing or aware of at the time that I was there, which I find very interesting. So my experience of being there was I didn't really see anything, but my experience of looking back on it was, oh, wow, actually there was a lot happening there that I was completely unaware of. Now, as we get late into the night, supposedly at that event, Ricardo and also Paula Harris, who'd driven all the way across the country to be there, they supposedly connected with Antarel. They met with him. I can't verify that. I wasn't there for it. I didn't personally see or meet the being, but that's what they say happened. Now, it's just so funny because that night, I mean, I was in a little hire car, right? Remember, I'd driven all the way up the mountain. I didn't have any camping equipment. I didn't have any food. I didn't have any blankets. I didn't have anything. Luckily, the people there were kind enough to share, their resources with me. As one of the ladies gave me her cardigan, so I ended up sleeping in my car because it was too unsafe to drive down. Then the next morning, about 6 a.m., I was starving by this point. So I went down to get breakfast, and then I ended up later that day going towards the Pluto's caves. And that's where, there's the inner earth portals and a lot of activity happens there, a lot of sightings of 8-foot beings and things like that. And as I was driving out towards Pluto Caves, about a couple-hour drive, and there was a car that had pulled over the side of the road. And I thought that maybe they needed help because I was in the middle of nowhere, hadn't seen a car go by in a while. I thought, let me just pull over and see if they need some help. Turns out the two gentlemen in that car were from the conference I'd just been at, and they had just come from the Pluto's caves. They had a camera. They were doing some filming there or something. And they said to me, they were like, "Are you going there by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "Do you have a flashlight?" I was like, "No." They're like, "We're going to escort you because we can't let you go there by yourself. It's almost sunset now. And if you go there by yourself, there's unmarked roads. You won't be able to come back. There's no cell reception. Let us come with you." So, by the grace of God, I had bumped into these two beautiful gentlemen who came with me to the Pluto's caves. We didn't spend a lot of time there because it was getting dark. And like I said, I was so unprepared on this trip, you know, but I went there, got to experience a little bit of the magic of the Pluto's caves, just felt the energies there, then came out, and then I went back. So it was the amount of synchronicities and guidance that I experienced on that trip that it was mind blowing.
Now, do you think these dimensional entities were talking to you subliminally or in your
Oh
conscious?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah. I
and
mean, I
then,
was
and,
aware of that. Like
oh,
I was aware that the inner guidance was coming from Star Family. And at the time, I mean, the beings that I knew I was connected with was the Arcturian Council of Light, or sometimes at that time my consciousness wasn't refined enough to know specifically who I was talking to, but it was more like a generalized, okay, there's a council of light that's talking to me.
mhm.
Now I know exactly who the beings are, and I have faces and names and all of that, but it's taken years and years of refinement and practice to get to that level. Back then it was just a very generalized, okay, the council of light is guiding me to go to this place and do this thing, and I was kind of just following that guidance.
It's kind of like a regression in a way, and like abductees, they have this regression, like I had in lucid dreams. I've had some regress
Right,
dreams that are
right.
very lucid, very real. So I guess that ends up our time here, Esha, and I really enjoyed it. I'm sure other people will too, and maybe sometime down the road, I'll be working with other networks and crossing over and doing things. So maybe have you back on. You're very interesting. I really enjoy. I had to get that even though I went over the time I wanted to, I had to get that Shasta story in there because it sounded so thrilling, and it is. It's something that we're we're feeling things spiritually and subconsciously and consciousnessly that we're not taking in. A lot of us aren't taking it in, and that's where I have to practice myself more so as being like
Mm,
you. On the I've had a lot of tangible things happen to me, but I need this spiritual and this consciousness and refined a little bit. Our guest, Eesha Patel, and she's from Australia. And very, very great stories she's had. You can get a hold of her at www.eeshapatel, EESHAPATEL.com, or you can get a hold of her on Facebook. And you have a Facebook page, I guess, that Eesha Patel, right?
yep. Facebook, Instagram, website, lots of ways to connect with me.
Okay, great. And I'm sure there'll be some people talking to you. And I know there's a lot of the topics here that you've had: initiating contact, life after disclosure, and galactic awakening. Those people would be interested in those topics. Okay, you've been great, and you've done it. You've done a very interesting show, and I know you got your own podcast and everything. So that's First Contact podcast, and it's shown right there on the screen. So people check out our podcast, check out our website, and we thank you for listening in. This has been Dave Emmons with Strange Reality. My guest, Eesha Patel. Thank you and good night.